Girl, you fly and get her.
Grand finals has to go through that last chance major.
I see replay, I see Archie's name, I enjoy the highlight reel. Let's see it. What we add into the montage this time, Archie. Getting stuck in the bills there, but jumping in and hitting the big shots. That is what he does.
Doing a good job staying alive right here, probably getting coached a little bit.
Yeah, he said he doesn't get nervous. He's biting his nails there. I'm telling you, this guy, he's a liar. Don't believe him. Don't believe all that I'm not nervous talk. Nobody that ain't nervous starts biting their nose. Look at me stressing. He's probably the scared scratchy. He doesn't know what to do. Poor Archie. Look, you're fine, Archie. Don't worry, mate. You're in the grand finals. Just have some fun these last 2 games, my friend.
Shout out Levin and the new segment, Inside the Mind of Archie. Every single time, Levin, that's your job. These new segments. We need to know what Archie's thinking every step of the game. Because we know what Thomas and Malabuka are thinking. We're thinking, hey, there's a player in front of us, and he needs to go down. As they close the distance towards Rift Island as well. They're probably trying to condition, get that extra practice. Because through the first 2 weeks, they did not go for Rift Island that much. So they're probably using this week 3 as a test, if it's even worth going for.
Yeah, look, it was iDrop and Mappy that they were hot on the tail of. And that's another team who we know does like to play for Rift Island. We've not seen as much today as we did in previous weeks, but they are here now.
We at least have 2 teams testing it right away, a third towards the outskirts, and so many more just off of Rift Island. Heard one of them take said Rift, try to go ahead and disrupt this fight, being the third team right in it. And this is where all of these players have to be careful. That's Mustache and Hide on Bush of all teams. Ready to contest for that Rift Island as well. But some of these teams already having their championship spot secured. This is just a test, like I was saying, to kind of feel these teams out. Is it worth going for, especially in the set lobby?
I get it from Anas and Strap though, right? They're trying to do anything they can to just get as many points as possible. The extra 15 points that come from getting the island are worth its weight in gold for them right now, as they try their best to push themselves into a qualification spot for that grand final.
Position around 22nd on the leaderboard. From here on out, they don't necessarily need to do anything major. They just can't slip up off their perch. Mustache is just continuously looking. Nose players are down there. Mappy trying to go for a cheeky little destruction of the cover. Mustache used that opportunity to try to hit a mammoth shot, but nothing comes to fruition just yet. Hide on Bush is one of those players that's positioned on top of the Rift Island house, making sure that if anybody else rifts up, it's not going to be easy for them to try to take advantage of. And that's your Q, Levin. What is Archie thinking?
Inside the mind of Archie right now, just use a flopper. Bosh! Got to get into zone. Bosh! Ooh, player there. Mammoth pistol. Bosh! Oh, I missed that one. Let me try again. Wait, is there someone in the bush there, mate? No, forget it. Bosh! And that's the segment right there. Inside the mind of Archie. Oh, that was actually a live listening to Archie right there.
I like the Bosh. I'm a type of guy that yells bang, you know, myself in those tight, intense moments. But, you know, different region. I'm from the NA side of things, so I can see the difference. But Hydro and Trexer, it's almost exactly where they land, from one off-spawn fight to what would seem like another. That's Blaha Mixon on the other side, who are slowly but surely getting eaten alive by the storm. A little bit on the Metamis for Hydro, so the Siphon coming through is going to be a must for them to kind of survive. We know the zone is pulling towards the north. Ooh, he's peeking through. A nice shot by Hydro. No sneaky plays coming out from you. And an opportunity, as long as he buys the time for the Siphon, as now they set their eyes on the prize, which is Mixon.
Really nicely done from Hydro on that shot, and he'll go for the finish as well. Before refocusing their attention onto Mixon, who is scurrying away a bit here. And so you see Hydro building up just to try to find the angle to spot him out. And he will see him now on the shore of the beach.
Well, that was the last we saw of Mixon. And for Hydro and Trexer, at least you know you don't have to chase that direction other than for the loot, but another team perched up on the mountain. Ronnie and Gawid. He used his sailing skills over towards the outskirts of the water to keep himself alive and get his teammate back, and all of that is going to be rewarded with the first knock onto Trexer. As long as they can remain persistent, they could get this elimination, but that would cost them a ton of heals if they had that as their plan.
I think a good thing for these teams is once this concludes, they can just sort of rotate all the way up north into the zone, and they will be on the dead side with not many players there to really cause them much harm.
But they are just
Ooh.
spending a lot of time. I see why in the back of their minds they have slurp juice, they have slap splashes, so it's not going to be too much of difficulty to get towards the zone as Archie does get the reboot back onto Jakey.
Nice. Jakey back in the game.
Elimination each. I feel like the only worry right now is going to be the loot.
That's fine. Popping the slurp juice. Bosh.
He's just rotating, getting the mud. Or the rift. This one could be risky, especially with teams already positioned towards the edge of zone. Let's see if it pays off for them in a little bit. Zanas and Srapt continuing where they left off up into this point. They need that top finish if they're looking to qualify for the FNCS Major 3 Grand Finals. And right now, they're on par, I would say. Team rotating side by side. Got to be careful in a situation like this, because this is the side of the zone that'll eventually become congested. So how deep you go into zone is something you got to ask yourself, and how worth it is it going to be? They look back. See both Splash and Nate. It's another team that's fighting for their shot here at the finals. They need about a top 10, maybe even a 7th place finish if they're looking to continue this season. Trexer gets taken out. They saw that one. Corner of their eye while trying to rotate with the kinetic ore. With Boaz just getting rebooted, that was a huge find. I've never seen anything like I've never seen somebody go down on the ore and try to go to zone. Dirty. Unfortunate enough, I respect him for trying to get his teammate back into the game. He went deep into the zone to make it a possibility. I give him all the respect in the world. Yeah,
it didn't quite work out at all. That's interesting, though. I never thought about using that. If you're like a player knocked in zone, you know you're about to go down, you just like rock yourself to make yourself go even closer. That's interesting. Anyway, let's focus on the here and now, all right? Enough theory crafting. Archie and Jakey fan back in the game after rebooting Jakey fan earlier. We're now going to try and make something out of this one. Always a tough task when you've had to reboot in a game. You're always going to be less stacked than your competitors. But they've got to make something work.
They didn't get their vault this time around, but they still got those mid-match objectives. 15 points. Former stash and hide on bush, and basically a free rotation, especially if zone does begin to open up. They're on the backside of that. Is now see a flipped end. Earlier on in this game, we saw Ronnie as a solo trying to get his teammate back. Now we got Gawid as a solo trying to let him know, like, hey, you did a good job. Now let me take it from here. Some of these teams still didn't find that comfortable spot in towards the zone. The western side, more stacked than the east, but still a couple teams on the east side that still have to find their way. I love the overhead view, seeing where every team is positioned at, whether they have elevation or not. The zone pulling towards the right. More than half of the lobby got a max pull zone. And that means players are probably going to get taken out left and right trying to get there.
Across the river.
Hopefully they got their water nymphs, especially if they can't swim.
Mud is going to be key though for some of these teams, and you're seeing City and Cammy going right for it. Mud rotates so effective, and that's why Pink and Vika will be very much looking to do the same. You see both these teams set up now in positions next to each other. Two of the top dogs in the lobby. Great minds think alike, as they do say.
Yeah, not rotating too early. What their idea is let the zone begin to open up, and then that's where they'll start to make the rotation. So by the time that they do get there, they continue to use that mud, depending even what augments they combine with that, to try to jump over some teams, gain some elevation, gain a better spot than just on the edge. Vortex is afraid, having some struggles, but they go ahead and find their spot. Archie and Jakey, they still got some rotating to do, but they're waiting for all of these other teams to try to be the first one there, and that wait pays off. They find Marine, take him down, but they get barely any mats for that.
It's fine though, because if they've done it once, surely they can do it again, right? You see now, box to box against this team, and they're scaring them out of the ends. Nobody wants beef with Archie and Jakey fan right now.
It's scary because now that they know that they qualified, it's almost like they have nothing to lose, and you're seeing like a different level of confidence come out from the last couple of games. Hoping to follow suit. Nas and Strapped, even though they're in prime position to punch their ticket as well. They don't want to call this play over until they hear the whistle, and that whistle is going to be at the end of game number 6.
Garrett, still in this game as a solo, but this is such a tough ask. First moving, not really many materials. He's just able to get by, and props to him as the zone gets smaller and smaller. That task becomes harder and harder. Whoa, okay, Archie. What do we have here? He's not really afraid of anybody right now. Big shots being hit. And Odin is going to feel the consequence of that one. Archie now on top of the wall. He's not going to stop. He wants to jump in. Maybe Jakey fan having to rein him in a bit. Calm down, Arch. We ain't got to get too ahead of ourselves right now. Anas will have to get ahead of the zone and of all these players standing in his way. He gets tugged on a bit from the back and he needs to be careful.
Yep, and he has no mammoth, so he can't do the double pump. It's just straight 14 shots left in his shotgun. Definitely has some pressure, and you look at the high ground. It's Seti, it's Cammy position themselves, the Kings on top of the mountain. Everybody else below looking like ants, and this you see Anas now as a solo, Jakey fan as a solo. A lot of these teams that have yet to qualify still trying to push themselves further and deeper onto that leaderboard. Struggles towards the backside. Jakey's doing a good job of playing a game of hide and seek. He knows somebody's there on the other side, but he didn't suspect that both sides of the cover were going to be taken.
No mats for Anas. Hiding, not even in a bush, just in some of these plants and the shrubs, hoping nobody will see him as he looks to use this big pot. The zone ticking in slowly behind him, and he'll pop it. But now needs to connect to something. The shield plant will also help him. But ultimately, Anas just scrapping for anything to keep him in this game longer.
He's trying to farm bushes, he's trying to farm grass, he's trying to farm anything that he can to try to get a build to work with to defend himself, and ends up with a duo dropping on him. As we jump on board, Nate and Splash need about a top 10 performance, so they need to come out on top in these next 2 games if they want a chance, just like everybody else. Merstash, we saw him with Hide on Push, and now we don't see them anymore.
Top 10 performance, so isn't too shabby. Nate and Splash still in this game as well, and looking good in this game as well. But they are running out of materials here on this mid-ground layer, and so they're going to have to start thinking about dropping down. Cammy and Seti making their jobs even harder as they start to pressure. And so that forces Splash and Nate to look to beneath, looking in the back of the zone, and they will find something.
This is it. This is their chance, their moment, and they're taking advantage of it well, but they split up, and they use that to take out another player. Siphon Mats, Menmis, they're finding a treasure trove of loot as they secure their spot into the top 3, but every run comes to an end. Splash gets knocked out the backside. Nate gets taken out as well. Top 2 here to end the game, and it's none other than Seti and Cammy with the high ground.
Seti now trying to secure that win they've been after all day long. And it looks like it's going to be here. Cammy with a big shot. Seti looking to connect, but he falls. Oh dear, the 4 damage takes him out. It's all 1v1 now. and one that's very winnable for Ping. Up against Cammy down below, not many shields left, and so he just has to connect one more bullet. Cammy and Seti look to take it all, but it was Kyrie and Ping who steal it away in the final moment, keep their composure, and will be granted the victory royale for it. And so it'll be another second place for the Polish duo. But still a big, big game all across the board from these teams who were already so high up in the standings, Jacob.
Yeah, and for Kyrie and Pings, that was redemption. That was for revenge because it was in that last game. Remember, they had high ground and it was stolen away. They got forced down to the low ground and taken out. But this time, they said, this game is mine. And they took over, taking down both Seti and Cammy towards the end game. And that was the monster shot that really won it all for Pings because from there on out, he had full position to take over the rest of this one and finally take down Cammy, forcing them into back-to-back second.
Seti went for the drive-by shot, but it was the flick of the wrist. That was really his demise, really his doom. And so the win will go to Kyrie and Ping. A really, really nice game for them. And, you know, like you said, they've come close in previous games as well. It was two teams that were really just sort of going back and forth in previous matches that finally get to duke it out for the win as a whole. But Kyrie and Ping come out on top.
Yep, and with that, that is our 5th game done. One more left to go.
So much fantastic. Game number 5. And there is so much to discuss as we get ready for the last game of the day here from EU. Remember, this is it. Next week is grand final, so duos are looking to end the day as well as they can to be top 50 on the series point leaderboard. From there, we're looking at grand finals. This game, though, for the duo, Ping, Kyrie, 9 eliminations and the Victory Royale. Just 2 games ago, we saw another duo that wasn't even in the top 10. Got themselves 8 eliminations in the Victory Royale. Suddenly, they're competing in the top 10. So, if math serves me right, Taco, I feel like we could see Ping and Kyrie in the top 10.
Ping and Kyrie very likely to be in that top 10 position, especially given how close the leaderboard spread was in general. So many teams within 30 to 40 points of each other. But this end performance here from Ping, just a great job keeping his senses about him, not really letting himself... it was more so the fact that he didn't hesitate. He was very committed to his decisions, and he played really well around those ramps, just given the fact that both of these teams were dealing with a lack of materials for builds.
Yeah, that's not an easy situation to win there from Ping and Kyrie, but they showed that they are a very, very good team, a very experienced team, because of course they played in every single weekly final this season. One of only 7 teams in the lobby today to actually have done that, so they've just been able to learn from each one of those weeks, and we can see it. Back-to-back second places for this team, or back-to-back, or second place last game, first place this game, I should say. Not quite back-to-back second places, but a fantastic job from them nevertheless, and I really like the way they went about that. They had a lot of maturity towards the end of that game, taking the high ground off of Seti. Of course, Seti slipping down a little bit there. Didn't quite work out for them, but great job from this team.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we can take a look at the standings and see what it all looks like. With a single game left to go, how will this all conclude? We look at the top once again. Vico and Pink, they are still sitting 60 points ahead of the duo in second place. But look, suddenly it's Pings and it's Kyrie. So after that game, the hugeness, they've just said, hey, listen, we're jumping up. We're now in second place. And look at the point differences, right? Going from down low, if they move up the 2 places, that means they were currently in 4th, so right around the 180 mark. So to put 50 points on the board for the duo, that's huge, especially, again, consider the ramifications. If they were to end the day in second place, what that could mean for the series point leaderboard.
But you've also got Seti and Cammy hot on the heels for first place. Granted, it's a team that's already locked in for grand final, so less about series points in reference to them and more so about just them trying to find a nice, well-rounded finish leading into that grand finals competition later on. But Seti and Cammy, I mean, it's what you would expect. Again, we've seen them do this a bit of a flip in their playstyle where they're being better about controlling height, about maintaining height, about spraying down to the teams in the layers below them to prevent them. The drops as well from this team have been relatively well-timed. Didn't necessarily work out in their favor for this last match, and that's why they lost against Ping and Kyrie. But at the same time, I think it says a lot that this is kind of like a second-half team if you really think about it, because it really just feels like the start of the day, maybe not so much for them, but by the time we get to that second half, man, it's like a whole new duo.
Yeah, they're just playing Fortnite bingo at this stage. Good game in low ground, yep. Good game on high ground, yep. We'll tick it off as well. These guys are just playing all-rounded to perfection. They're doing such a great job at it as well, because this is exactly when you want to start sort of rounding off your game, making sure that each and every department is looking good, because we have grand finals next weekend. Top 10, of course, qualify to the Global Championship. So this is the time for these duos. This is the time for these teams that do want to try and make a few little bits of their game perfection. That's exactly what it's all about.
Absolutely. Let's come back to those standings. Because remember, I can't stress it enough, only a single game left to go, and some of these duos are fighting to continue the FNCS run. But again, there's some that are just doing fine, right? There's some that are looking to gatekeep everybody else. We're looking at you, Seti and Cammy, but I want to start kind of heading on down the board here. Merstash and Hide on Bush, we've kind of seen them performing all day, and now they're looking to jump up, and this is exactly what I wanted, friends. Let's look at the 11th through 20th place. So remember, top 10, the points, 127. So if we just look down this board, even at say like 20th place, right? We just saw this duo, Ping, put 50 points on the board. If the duo in last place was to put 50 points right here, right now, and no one else earned points, they would be 7th place. So just think, it only takes one game. Any of these duos could still do it.
Hey, sometimes it's just that dominating, but I couldn't help but notice we saw Anas and Strapcal. They're in the top 20 position, or 18th place specifically, but it's the fact that we knew that they needed a well-performing day. We were talking about 33rd or higher. Right now, it's seeming as if they're going to be able to close things out in that position, which is pretty incredible when you factor in. We've been seeing a lot of Anas having to go for solo clutch opportunities, and I think that his experience as a player is what's really been carrying this duo through today. And it's no slight against Strapcal by any means, because again, Anas choosing a duo with someone because he believes that there's potential there for sure, but I think that it's not an easy feat to go so many lobbies and still find consistent placements.
Yeah, I mean, we saw this team going for the Rift Island in the last game. I don't think they'll be going for it in this game, because all they need is just a decent game, just to get them over the line, because right now, that's all they have to be focusing on. Let's qualify to Grand Finals, and we'll fix a few things in our game, solo, in endgame, and things like that. We'll fix that for Grand Finals. Just make sure this game's solid, and I hope for them it is.
Friends, I'm getting word. It's that time. The Battle Bus is ready. We have one game left to go in Europe. It is now or never for these duos, because if you wait too long, there could be no more tomorrow. With that being said, this is game number 6 of the EU FNCS.
The final game to make it happen. Props to our analysts for breaking down everything so wonderfully for us today. But Jacob, I look back through this season so far, through all the journeys we've seen from this teams, and to think it comes down to this last game, it's really intense.
Yeah, some of those teams, you heard the analysts kind of break it down. They already got their spot throughout those 5 games, but there's a couple of teams still in the mix that need this last game. Nate and Splash, I said it while I was watching them playing. They were outside of their own threshold. They need back-to-back performances. Well, they did it fine in game 1, but now they have to do it again here in game 6.
Look, everything comes down to this, because all these players want to be competing in the FNCS Major 3 Grand Finals next weekend. And of course, a lot of them have already secured that position. A lot of them have played there before. But for the ones that haven't, what a moment it will be. And we are one game away from that moment. Let's jump right into game number 6.
The last chance. The last chance and the last dance for some of these teams. Otherwise, you're going to have to go again in that last chance major, and you lose your cushion of being able to play out of the upper bracket. You will have to go on the lower side of things, as Edwin goes for a chest on top of that crane, just trying to drop down onto his opponents. He thinks he has the advantage with a sharp tooth, and my gosh, was that an advantage.
That's nice. That is what you want to see off spawn. It might have taken us a while to get here, but we are seeing dominance in game number 6, in and out, as you do. And unfortunately, it looks like we're going to see a repeat of what we've seen here so many times already today. Paco and Yapko not having the best of times off spawn here.
No, not at all. And it's basically the same 50-50 for the floor spawn that is on the edge of that building. He's just trying to disengage, use the launch pad. It makes him susceptible to these shots. He's just getting almost terrorized trying to get out. And I see Hide on Bush and Mustache getting very, very busy over towards that secluded spire that we've seen so many teams gravitate towards. And the first knock was kind of already solidified very, very early on, and it kind of puts pressure on Paco. What he's going to do, because he even has to rotate all the way around that same position if he wants the card itself.
Oh, dearie me.
Oh, my.
Wow. Nathan and Jakey with the upset here. Blaha and Mixon down and out completely.
For them, at least they can end their day knowing they're already going to the grand finals next week. So they can take an early day off. They can take the rest of the day off, eat some dinner, watch the rest of this Fortnite action, and start to theory craft. I saw this not once, but twice. It was Hide on Bush's name in the feed, and that was how he did it to save Mustache.
Anderson trapped. Need to have a masterclass if they want to secure fully. Of course, it does look like they will be good. You can never be too safe, right? You want to go out with a bang.
No. That stat is just crazy. It just goes to show the pressure. Team season in the line. And that's why you see so many reboots, so many players stretching deep into the zone to make it a possibility as Chari and Gearys go down again to both Ju and Noah Riley, who last game were just seeming like they just wanted to take down every competitor themselves. As Andalex feeling those same struggles, X-Squeeze is already down as we tune in. But it does look like it's a little bit of a 1v1. Nathan on the other side. Andalex trying to go for a little bit of a piece control before reuniting back with his teammate. Doesn't want to let the Siphon go through, but the shots are just going through the covers. Perfect pre-fires from Nathan to back down Andalex. We can't build there.
The battle's coming in clutch. And even a revive potentially coming through as well. Pressure from Nathan starting to realize just exactly what's going on here. And he doesn't like any little bit of it at all. Doesn't want them to revive, but it doesn't seem like he'll get there in time.
Basically going to be a risk versus reward scenario. Got to think about the pros and cons on the side of Nathan. Does look like he's trying to aggress in. The revive is going to be solidified. The pre-fire going through. Andalex lands a monster of a shot, but Nathan does as well. A trade and only 30 HP left on X-Squeeze, but he said, "You've done enough, Andalex. Let me clutch up just one."
I was so worried there because Andalex initially does so well to hit the shot, but when he goes down, he's just revived at Squeeze, so he's only going to be 30 HP. One shot is all it would have taken from Nathan to 1v2 there. But Squeeze comes through with a good clutch moment here in Game 6.
Almost tries to box him up. They're laughing and show them. Another team, even though they already got their grand final spot secured, should be using this day as a little bit of practice. Things not going their side. And honestly, you got to think, was it the drop spots? Was it switching things up? Or is it just a mindset? Kind of using week 3 to test different strategies, which I do think some teams on the day and even tomorrow on the NA side of things will do. The fight we can let them see Pink and Vico. Vico's ready there to alleviate some of the pressure. Pink gets tossed down. Rezumi gets sent back to the lobby as well. And now they have themselves a 2v1 situation against the Ned, who's trying to fight for the piece control. Gets one. But he knows he can't be stagnant in any position, knowing that he's a solo.
One thing I'll say about Pink and Vico this season is that they have been absolute monsters off spawn, have dominated anybody that's tried to cause them an issue at their spot in their area. It's been quite relentless to watch, really. And a continuation of that here in this game.
Strap's already down. Nas in this replay, probably trying to clutch up. He gets the first knock, but the player just doesn't back down. And for Anas and Sarab, where they're on the leaderboard after this game while everybody else gets to play means so much. It's their future on the line.
Tough. Because they're going to be sitting there, fingers crossed, for the remainder of this game. And as things update afterwards as well.
Probably asking a lot of the analytics. Will this threshold hold? Do I have enough points? As Moneymaker and Fanayan, they already have a pair of eliminations each. This is exactly how they were able to pick those up. Moneymaker already has one, so it's basically two players just making their laughing go down. They get into the box. And they do it rather quickly, knowing that timing is not necessarily on their side. But Nate and Splash, they've been performing consistently well through 5 games, and I wouldn't say they have the toughest road to the grand finals, but needing about a 7th place finish on the day, they definitely have their work cut out for them, and this being Game 6, their final chance, they're going to be looking to play a little bit more towards the top end of the leaderboard instead of having those risky plays they were doing in some of the other games.
Archie. I want to see him hitting some more shots of the Mammoth. You've seen him lining up a bunch today. And we've not seen any real big headshots. We saw one actually last game in endgame. It's mainly been the body shots. I want to see a big headshot from range from Archie.
They land the first body shot. And for them, they feel like that's enough damage to at least comfortably rotate in the position, close the distance. Even marking it out. That's Gaweed and Ronnie on the other side. And then further back is X-Squeeze and Andalex. So a lot of teams using very, very similar rotation paths to get to where they need to be. Doom and Lunar. There's a launch pad here, so not too much worries for them to try to rotate as they look towards the backside. And they realize somebody got that reboot off. And they want to see who.
You're right there, mate. The zone's the other way. They know that. They don't care, though.
They want the points. They realize that team just took the slurp truck, so they want to disengage, knowing that the possibility of them being full health is there. Even though they are missing some shields, that's information that Lunar and Doom don't have just yet. So they're kind of making that safe play. They want to go ahead and play the rest of this one out, so they disengage. They say, hey, if we want to deal with them, we can do it later. We can try to gatekeep them out. As I see in the feed, Splash and Nate have gotten themselves a pair of eliminations as well. Trippin and Refsguard. I see them kind of going up against Andalex and X-Squeeze as they try to rotate. Mammoth shots going out, but nothing really connecting just yet.
Yako and Clone rotating down the river. They might just run into Gawe there if he's not careful. He's got some mud though, so that should allow him to rotate through a bit quicker. But he's now heading back in their direction, which again might cause him some issues. Another game where we haven't watched him solo in our back-to-back games.
Kind of looking True Lex and Chicho, even though they're not in the lobby. They're one of the teams that is on that bubble, along with Skydune and Shakos, Peshka and Lucia in this lobby as well. So some that are on the bubble have no choice but to sit and watch. Some get to have a say in their future. And to me, that's the biggest thing. When you have an opportunity to take control of your own destiny, you have to make every single moment matter.
100%. Can't allow it to slip out of your hands. Idrop and Mappy. Not been a day to really sing their praises by any means, but hopefully they've been able to put in some work in establishing and finding security in their spot and the players that may be landing around them. That's a bit rough. That's not the kind of way I want to see them fighting.
Not good. Did not know O'Reilly have the confidence to do that. Sending both Eyedrop and Mappy back to the lobby. And the top 32 teams as well. So no placement points for anybody's efforts up until this point. It's just eliminations and mid-map objectives being gathered. Archie,
He did it!
You said you wanted to see it.
Yes! Come on, Archie!
Like a proud dad. You should see the look on Levin's face right now.
Can't stop smiling.
And I like his position here towards the edge of zone as well. Just trying to predict myself. I don't think it's going to pull all the way towards the south, but I think Archie does have a great position to continue to move north in towards the zone. Get ready for the later portion of the game. He has to figure out how he's going to get Jakey Fan out of that position, especially with Seti and Cammy not too far off.
Pink and Vico 2 in this game. Looking for that elimination record. And of course, heading into this final game, we got Vivid to give us a quick update.
Yeah, I mean, week 3 here for Pink and Vico, it's pretty much just been all about practice. They were already guaranteed qualified to Grands, and even so much this game coming in first place, they were like, you know what? Why don't we get a little bit of fighting practice and a quick 2 eliminations for this duo in the early game. And I mean, they are already set up to win this thing, and they go ahead and actually gather up a cache as well. And after they go ahead and secure this cache, I mean, their loot is looking very, very good. Got the slurps and got the slap splashes. See if they can win this thing.
Definitely in prime position in terms of that loadout. They've won 2 games already. They almost got that third. Very, very similar loot. So I think you'd be crazy to think that they don't necessarily stand a chance. But Bolt TX, Mesa, they've been solidifying themselves on the leaderboard and really leaving it to this last game. If they play well, they're in. If they fall short, they're out. It's as simple as that.
Sounds simple, but very hard in practice in this kind of lobby.
I did make it sound simple, didn't I?
But they are capable of it. It's not out of the realms of possibility.
That's Kenty. That's a big elimination onto Malibuka. Didn't necessarily see exactly where they were positioned on this leaderboard in week 3, but they're just inside the series point leaderboard, trying to hold on to their position. Don't want to give that one up as Thomas and Malibuka do go down. That's 2 eliminations. That's Storm Surge. It's a good amount of loot. And since they're not too far from the zone, they're not going to have to expend very much of these heals to get themselves there.
And this is how Kenty got that LM. Knocking on the door. Open up. Bish bash bosh, Malibuka down.
Just trying to kind of read the zone. I feel like, how many games has the zone went over to this side of the map? I know we had like 1 Kenjutsu side, maybe 2 Kenjutsu, 4 Western zones. I feel like the lobby's got to be conditioned at this point to make their early rotations. If they do land on the north or even eastern portions of the map, it's almost a must, especially without mobility other than the temple rifts, a couple launch pads being scattered around, and the mud, all in which make you susceptible to getting tagged up by any team, especially those above on that Rift Island.
Saw that. Where Zone was positioned there, I had my eyes on Cammy and City in their position and sitting in a great spot to deal with any teams coming in from that Frenzy Field side, or also having access to dead side if Zone pulls in that direction. You sort of are used to seeing these guys in the best sort of mid-game positions. That is a part of the game that they just understand just that bit better than everybody else, it seems.
You can see them just biding their time, boxed up next to the Rift. Usually it's next zone, not 100% of the time, but usually in this next zone, wherever Rift Island is at, the zone typically does pull away from it. And that's why you see the team boxed up on that Rift. They're getting ready if the zone does pull away.